What is up, guys? My name is Quincy Carrier, and this is another episode of Q&A, the shows where I take your questions that you ask on Twitter and YouTube and answer them here in video format. And before we jump into it, thank you guys for supporting the new merch. If you haven't seen the new merch, here's a picture of it. Thank you guys for supporting it. A lot more sales than I thought we would do. I'm so happy with it. And please continue to support the merch. It really does help the show out, really does help me out, and I really do appreciate it. And if you do buy some of that merch, make sure you send me a picture on Twitter so I can retweet it, so I can give you a shout out, so I can give you a virtual high five or a virtual hug. Your choice. But check out the merch. Thank you guys for supporting it so far. Please continue to support it. But let's jump into the questions. All right, and we're going to start off with Twitter questions. And if you want to follow me on Twitter and ask me questions on Twitter, please follow me here at Quinn_C. It's a good time. It's a fun ride. And while you're there, you might as well follow my Instagram, boom_worst_take. It's also a pretty fun ride, if I don't say so myself. But this question comes from Tyler Humbert, 45, who says, what is the most important game for the Browns this season? Now, obviously, without being in the season, that's going to be a hard one to answer, but I'm going to predict that one of the most important games are going to be the Week 11 game Thursday night against Pittsburgh in Cleveland. I think that's probably going to be one of the Browns' most important games because it is going to be a game they have to win. They have the advantage home on a Thursday night. Home team is generally favored. And you're going to have to at least split with the Steelers. And if you don't, then you have to play them even later in the season in Heinz Field. Very hard place to win, no matter how good or bad the Steelers are. So that is a game that the Browns could let slip through their fingers, that they absolutely can't, because then they risk not being able to at least split with Pittsburgh. And I think that's going to be a huge deal this year in this divisional race. The only reason I don't have the game at home with Baltimore here, because one, it's not a Thursday nighter. Two, the first and second game against the Ravens are more spread out. I think the Browns play the Ravens in Baltimore the first 5 weeks in the season. And also just because the stigma of beating Pittsburgh is much more real in Cleveland than beating Baltimore. The Browns have beaten Baltimore recently. The Browns have no history really of consistently beating Pittsburgh, and they're going to have to win that game. That's going to be a big monkey off the back moment, that Thursday night game, and would really give them momentum going through the season, I think. And the next question comes from Amos Brown, who says, who is being slept on the most on the Browns roster you think will be moving the needle the most this season? I can't read, but that's okay. Who do I think is being slept on? It's going to move the needle a little bit this season. I talked about Terrence Mitchell, but I'm going to go with another guy in that secondary. I'm going to go with Demarius Randall and his blue hair. I think he is a very underrated and kind of gone under the radar type of guy right now. And that's crazy because Demarius is like one of the most eccentric players on the roster, but not a lot of talk has gone into him. I think he is a true free safety. I think he's a true center fielder. I think he's going to make a huge impact on that safety now that he has even more good corners healthy on this team with the addition of Greedy Williams. I think that Demarius Randall is going to make a huge impact this season, and I think he is going to make a boatload of money, but I don't know if he's going to stay with the Browns because he's going to make bank if he has the season I think he's going to have. The next question, also from Twitter, comes from Hanson's Rough Riders, who says, I'm asking 2 questions today, Quincy. 2 exclamation marks. But I'm only reading 1 question. What is your take on Ernest Johnson? He looked pretty good and legit the other night. Do you think he'll catch on? Ernest Johnson, I like him. He's a 3rd, 4th, maybe backup running back if you have some injuries. I think he's serviceable. I think if something happens to Dontrell Hilliard where he can't play, I think Ernest Johnson is fine to serve that role. Again, I don't think that's a hard role to find to get people to fill, but I like Ernest Johnson back there, and I could see how he could be a guy who might not make the team, but is on a short list in case of injuries for the coaching staff. The next question, this is from YouTube, comes from Spastic PS4. This is less of a question and more of a prediction, and he says, Sub Quincy, ... That's kind of skeptical. A great show. Prediction time. 1, who do you think will be the team's MVP? I think Nick Chubb. I think that has a high chance of happening, but I'm going to go with Baker Mayfield because I think he's going to have an even bigger year. But I could see how the Browns could get ahead a lot and Nick Chubb can just have a monster year. I would also throw Myles Garrett in there because I think he's also going to have a monster year. Speaking of Myles Garrett, how many sacks do you think Myles will have? He guesses 17. I'm going to guess 20. Myles Garrett going to have a big year. He's going to be Defensive Player of the Year. He's going to make Aaron Donald look like a scrub. Not really. He's just going to look really good. And Aaron Donald is also very good. Please don't find me and beat me up, Aaron Donald. The third one is Browns win total. I guess 11-5. I also have guessed 11-5 so far, and I'm feeling good about that. I think the Browns will have some struggles early in the season. People are going to have their field day, but I think they're going to catch on fire late in the season and really get on their groove and to playoff time. So that's my prediction. I kind of agree with you on all points pretty much, Spastic PS4, so good job. You have the right opinions. Next question comes from Mr. Stroehmann, who says, fun fact, renowned early English poet Geoffrey Chaucer, said that wrong, used axe rather than axe. And that sounded the same to you guys, but it's on the screen. Yule lovers axe I now this question. So thank you, Mr. Strawman. You pretty much just said I have the same amount of broken English as ye old Shakespearean English, which I have actually studied in the past, but nobody wants to hear about that. But yeah, thank you. I don't know how to feel about that. Just if you're going to be that bold, buy the shirt. You don't got to buy the shirt, but you know. That was a fun little thing. The next question comes from series regular, the Catster, who says, what's your opinion on Josh Gordon being reinstated and given yet another chance? Look, I'm not going to be mad that Josh Gordon got reinstated. I don't think he should have gotten reinstated, but I don't know what's going on behind closed doors. I don't know why Roger Goodell and him have such a good relationship to the point where he's gotten this many chances in the NFL, and other guys, Justin Blackmon has never even gotten his second chance, really. But with Josh Gordon, I hope and I wish for him the best, but at this point, it's like his fifth time on this rodeo. So as far as believing or thinking he's going to be anything this year or any contributor, I'll believe that when I see that for a whole season. But best of luck to Josh. The next question comes from Raya Mays, who says, what is your outlook on the Daniel Jones comments that the media contorted and making Baker look bad? All right, so just to give you guys kind of context, pretty much Baker did an interview. I forget for what magazine, but all the Browns have been doing all kind of interviews for all kind of media outlets, and they've just been popping up in national headlines like crazy. But Baker did an interview. Apparently, it was during the draft that he did this interview, or right after the draft. And the quote essentially was saying that Daniel Jones shouldn't have gotten drafted where he did. And they tried to make it seem like Baker said because he wasn't a winner. Baker then came out on Instagram to clarify that he said those sentences kind of independently, that he was saying that, wow, it's a surprise that he went up that high, which it was to everybody. I don't know why that part is controversial. And then Baker even said it was a surprise to him that he went number one. And then he had a later conversation about how evaluation is done with quarterbacks. And he was pretty much making the point that it should be about how many games you win. And look at a guy like Daniel Jones, a guy who has all the physical tools, tall guy, big guy, but didn't win any games in college. How does that guy get drafted over somebody that has won a lot of games, maybe a Dwayne Haskins, or I forget the guy who played at West Virginia, but he's now with the Carolina Panthers. But you know, maybe he was making that argument, which is fine. And the media kind of made it seem like he just came out and attacked Daniel Jones. And I have reason to believe that Baker is kind of correct, that he got miscontorted and misquoted in a way, because Baker has criticized some quarterbacks, specifically Texas's quarterback, the college team, and has been unapologetic about it. And if he is apologizing about something or even like trying to defend it, I tend to believe him because he's a pretty straightforward guy. But this just goes to show you when you're Baker Mayfield, and people will talk about, like, because the media always talks about this target on the back that, guys like Baker Mayfield and guys like Odell put on their team. But that target on the back doesn't really exist when they're playing NFL games because, as Freddie said, I would hope that they're coming out to try to kick our butt, because we're trying to kick their butt. The target on the back is really just the media having a target on his back. And they know since he's Baker Mayfield, he's a polarizing personality. Putting that kind of quote about him and having 35 discussions over like 8 shows about him, it's just going to generate views. And it's just the sideshow of what is the kind of mainstream sports media environment. So I really don't pay much mind to that or much put much salt in that jar. But, I think Baker's going to learn this media game a little bit better. So things like that kind of misquoting doesn't happen. He's going to learn who to trust and who to do interviews with and who to say things to. He's just a young guy. These things happen. And I think, it's just going to be par for the course for his career. I think the media, there's always going to be people in the media who are going to be kind of gunning to get Baker Mayfield just because of who he is and how he acts. The next question comes from Knowledge Man 254, who says, how good do you think Trevor Lawrence will be when he comes into the league? This is an interesting one because the dude hasn't really even played a full season yet, kind of, but he also hasn't, even gone into a second season, and he is probably the most hyped prospect since Andrew Luck, which is a ton of pressure on this guy, but he plays at Clemson, so he's probably used to the pressure by now. He's already won a national championship. But I would say the bar is set super high for him. It's almost one of those Patrick Mahomes situations where the bar is set so incredibly high, I don't know if it's going to be feasible or realistic for him to reach it. But we'll see. I will have a better idea if he would be the quarterback everybody thinks he's going to be in the NFL after this season, because teams will be able to game plan for him better and they would know what's coming with Trevor Lawrence. But all signs point up for the guy, but we've seen other guys who look like great freshman phenoms who kind of flamed out by the time they came to the draft. Josh Rosen is a perfect example of that. Coming into college, this guy was the best prospect since Andrew Luck, and now he's on his second team in 2 years. So you never know with these guys. Next question comes from Cay Johnston, who says, do you think the Braxton Miller signing signifies a Callaway trade? No. I think it signifies that they are going to bring him in, Braxton, to be that kind of second burner while Callaway is out on suspension and kind of see what is the deal with Braxton Miller while they have him here. I still don't know if he makes the 53-man roster. He's just getting an opportunity to be, in that role that Callaway serves, that he can't serve for the first 4 weeks. But I also see Freddie can do some pretty interesting stuff with him. He has a good track record with guys with his athletic build and who have lacked the success that you thought they would have had by now in their NFL career. So I'm intrigued to see what happens with this Braxton Miller thing, but I have very low expectations. And the last question of the day comes from Simone Madhavi, who says, how do teams make sure that players do not leak their entire playbook? Longtime fan. I would love to get an answer in the next Q&A video. By the way, congrats on 10K. Thank you. Now, I don't know the protocol behind this. I'm not even going to act like I know any privileged information about how this starts, but I can speculate if that's what you want me to do. I think the reason why there's not a huge playbook leaking problem in the NFL is probably because it's the NFL. And I don't know any player who is getting cut and span around on the bottom of rosters who would be able to leak these playbooks often, who would risk being blacklisted by NFL GMs because they leak playbooks. I don't think they're in that kind of position, those players, to even think of doing something like that or to even have something like that be beneficial to them at all. I think it would just be a bad decision all around. And also you have to remember with the NFL, the amount of game film that's there, the amount of tape that is available on these offenses, it's all there. Almost everything a team's going to use, like 99% of what a team's going to be used is on tape. So there's really no surprise game when it comes to that. And having the playbook, I don't think would give them that much more of an advantage. I mean, it would be more about learning signs and the code they use to transmit the play onto the field. That would be more helpful. But the actual playbook itself, I think you get the same kind of deal with all 22 study. So I think that's why it's not really an issue in the league. One, because no player would, in his right mind, think of leaking it, and two, because I don't think it would benefit anybody, even if anybody did it, just because there's all 22. There's all kind of things coaches can use to predict what the playbook is going to be for the other team. All right, guys, but that is all the questions for this week's video. Thank you guys for watching. If you like what I do here, please hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and ding that notification bell so you can be notified when I upload, and I upload a ton during the football season. And if you want to support the show, consider buying a shirt or joining a Patreon. Either way, you help me. If you get a shirt, send a picture to me. I will shout you out on my Twitter. And if you join the Patreon, you will be shout out at the bottom of this bar on this nice little ticker down here. It's awesome. Check it out. But that is it for this week's video. Thank you guys for watching. Have a great day. Have a good night.